What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the jungle. We are brought to you, as always, by the Riverfront and Blue Wire Podcast Network. I'm your host, Joe Farsing. Along with me is my friend Parker Fields. Parker, how are you, buddy?
Doing pretty good today, Joe. Ready to talk about the Steelers today.
Yeah, what are we doing talking about the Steelers on a Cincinnati Bengals? But we'll get into that. We're going to little series we're going to do, just kind of going into AFC North rivals and seeing where they stand before training camp and seeing how everyone matches up. Before we get into all that fun stuff, do a favor if you're on YouTube, like, subscribe, all that fun crap. Rate us on Spotify, Apple, everywhere you're listening to it. 5 stars only, 4 stars, 3 stars less than that. You suck, and we don't want you listening. Just kidding. Also, go check us out on Patreon, patreon.com/Riverfront Cincinnati. Subscribe for as low as $2 a month. Get the Hangout Patreon exclusives like our Slack channel and Zoom Hangouts, which we need to get one of those. We need to get you on some of the Zoom Hangouts. We get everybody just hang out and just shoot the shit for hours, because what else do we got to do? Watch a Reds game, because Reds are good again, by the way.
They are good again.
It's amazing what happens when you're not playing the Dodgers. I thought they beat the Dodgers. They won the season series over the Dodgers.
They swept the Dodgers.
Yeah, they swept them. They won season series over the Phillies, and the Phillies have the best record in baseball.
Yeah, and then
it's weird times.
Yeah, it's kind of weird, the teams they've been losing to. It's not even like they've been struggling versus the really good teams, honestly. It's been like a lot of NL rivals they've struggled versus. So that's beat the Cubs 3 of the last 4, so that's good.
Yeah, I mean they played the Orioles, they played the Padres, Diamondbacks, like good, they're not playing great, but a lot of talented teams, and now they're playing more of the rest of the league, like the Rockies, Cubs, Cardinals. Yeah, exactly.
Series helped.
Rockies won a series in Colorado against Phillies and the Dodgers. Though they're tough in Colorado, even though they're a pretty terrible team. Like there's a bunch of I thought I follow baseball, and you see the names on their lineups, and you're like, who the hell is that guy?
Well, baseball's definitely way harder to follow than the NFL and the NBA.
Yeah.
It's there's a lot of guys. I pay attention to baseball a good amount, and there's a lot of guys that I'm like, who the hell is that?
Yeah. Unless you're checking MLB trade rumors every single day and seeing who's getting called up, who's getting put on the injured list. I mean, Chris Bryant didn't play the entire series for the Rockies, and then they put him on the injured list after the Reds leave town. You're like, oh yeah, that guy was an MVP in 2016, and now he's an absolute nobody scrub for an awful team. So
yeah, he was an MVP, best player on a World Series winning team at one point, which is wild to think about.
Everyone on that team fell off, which hey, they're Cubs. They're the Cubs. Fuck them.
Yeah, Rizzo's the only one that didn't really fall off. He has now, but he's just older now.
Right, and that's age-related decline.
But Rizzo was really good after that still. Yeah, the rest of them, though, Baez and Bryant, they've fallen off, absolutely.
Yeah. I just hate to see it. All the people in Mason are so sad because the Cubs just aren't very good anymore. If you're from Cincinnati and you're a Cubs fan, what the fuck are you doing? I'm sorry. Be a fan. That's fine. Be a fan of another team, because the Reds have been awful.
The only way I can see it is if you're from Chicago.
But they're not. They're fair weather fans that hopped on in 2016 because they hadn't won a World Series in 108 years.
Yeah.
And we're pissed because the Reds haven't won one in 34. Yeah, we'll assume they're not going to win this year. 34 years.
Yeah.
108 years. That's a long time. Anyway, hey, since we are a Bengals podcast, we should get a little bit of news and notes about them. What do you say?
Yes, sir. Let's get into it.
Did you follow the uproar, the hubbub, everyone losing their collective fucking minds because Joe Burrow missed Tuesday's voluntary workout as he rested his wrist?
Yeah, I did see that on Twitter. I saw some local reporters reporting about that, and then people, freaking out about it. I mean, it's just he doesn't have to go every single day. What are we, 3 months still out from the season? 2 months from training camp almost?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, less than 2 months from training camp, but still damn near 2 months from training camp. And with Burrow, he's going to take a couple days off here and there. I don't think that's a big deal whatsoever.
Yeah, and this is voluntary workouts, voluntary OTAs, and the fact that Zach Taylor had
playing is a good sign. First of all,
yeah, exactly.
OTAs.
Exactly. The fact that Zach Taylor had to do a unscheduled press conference, that's another thing. Everyone's thinking, oh my God, he hurt his wrist. No, it was basically just to explain, no, this is part of it. He's going to take days off. He missed the day, he was out a day last week, but media wasn't around to see it. So this was just everything's copacetic. Calm your tits. Like, he's good to go. He's just, just deep breath. It's not a big deal. Like, he's coming back from wrist injury. Obviously, he's not going to want to have to throw, 100 passes every single day. Like, it's Jake Browning can get some work too. We're good, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Also on the Joe Madden. Joe Madden is a former manager. Wow, we talking too much baseball earlier.
Oh yeah, that is his form. John Madden and
yes.
Joe Madden.
Yes.
Joe Madden.
On the Joe Burrow front.
Manager.
Yes. Rumors that Madden 25 leaked some trailer teaser. I don't know what you want to call it, and the tint, I guess, like they is like orangish for some of the on-screen graphics, and people are trying to say that the voice that you hear sounds a little like Joe Burrow. So there's a lot of rumors that he might be the cover of Madden 25. Are you worried about the Madden curse if he's the guy?
No, because he's already been injured, had season-ending injuries twice in 4 years. So, like, I mean, if it happened again, I'm not blaming Madden for it. Is what I'm trying to say. Like, I'm not that worried about it. No.
I'm worried about the Frank Pollock curse.
Josh Allen was awesome last year. Mahomes was awesome 2 years ago. So it hasn't really been a thing the last few years.
Yeah, it's I'm worried about the Frank Pollock curse of not being able to put together a cohesive offensive line. Like that's my concern right there. So
wasn't Lamar on Madden a few years ago too?
Yeah. And I don't think it was the year Lamar got hurt, or one of the years. Got to be more specific because he's been hurt a few times. But I don't think it was the year he got that he was out. So
yeah, no, that wasn't. No, he was a little bit of the curse. He was the 2020 season on the Madden cover, so that was after his MVP year. He was not that good that year.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. So, as we said earlier, the Bengals are doing voluntary OTAs right now. Jamar and T are not present. Not really unexpected. Trent Brown isn't there, which not concerned about. He's doing work on the side again. It's voluntary. He's older. He's had health issues, injury issues. So, Jamar, now that Justin Jefferson got his deal done, I think they can start sitting down and at least throwing some numbers back and forth with the Bengals. There's no rush to sign him. They have him for at least 2 more years. Yeah. But I would imagine, I don't think he's going to get extended this offseason. I think before next year.
Probably when Justin Jefferson got extended. Same thing, probably.
Yeah, exactly.
Will he set Jefferson's mark, you think, probably? Will he break it?
If he waits a year, yeah.
Yeah, especially if he has another, like if he has puts up his best year or something this year, then yeah, especially then.
I don't even think he needs to go. He doesn't have to go crazy. I think just have another year, 100 catches, 1,500 yards, and a dozen touchdowns. That's not out of line with what we expect. Well, but
that's what we expect. Yeah, right. Going crazy. Yeah,
we're not talking about pushing 2,000 yards or anything like that, or 150 catches, breaking any records, but just having a expected season. Just basically hopes he's on the field for 16, 17 games, but. I think there's a chance. I think he or CeeDee Lamb. We all think Jamar is a better receiver than CeeDee Lamb, but they're both in the same boat, drafted the same year. Yeah.
Oh no. CeeDee's Jefferson's class.
Oh, he is, isn't he? That's right. Yeah,
he hasn't been extended yet, has he?
There have been so many receivers that came out in those 2 seasons.
Because I remember that because. It was CeeDee, Judy, and Ruggs were the first 3 taken.
Yeah, Henry Ruggs. Needless to say, we don't have to worry about a second contract for him.
Yeah, Judy, he'll get a second contract, but not as much money as you would have thought going into it. He'll get He's still a solid receiver in the league, but he's just not anything you expected from him.
He's not a game-changing number 1.
No, he's a number 2, number 3 on a really good receiving core type.
Yeah, and he's not on a very good receiving core team. They're fine, I guess.
You got
I don't. Browns are a running football team, and if they have Deshaun Watson throwing the ball, that's doesn't really matter who the hell's out there.
I will say we're talking about what you were expecting numbers wise from Chase. I do think. This could potentially be career years for honestly Higgins and Chase this year because without Boyd, like I just think they're gonna have more production with the like uncertainty at that number 3 spot at receiver. I feel like Chase might put up a shit ton of like receptions this year. Maybe not yards as much, but I feel like he's just gonna get the ball in space a lot more often with quick passes. And stuff.
Well, there's a lot of, we'll say smoke, because who knows what's really, they haven't really even really installed anything, but of now that Boyd isn't that slot receiver. I mean, Boyd was just a slot receiver, like damn good at what he did, like had a great career, but he wasn't a guy who moved around. That they're going to be more versatile, and Chase is going to run a lot of routes out of the slot, which number one is putting you in a lot more favorable matchups. You're usually not lined up on the line of scrimmage, so you're able to get a lot freer releases, and you've got a different route tree to run too. So I think
it opens up T. Higgins on the outside more with deeper routes as well.
Right, exactly. And I mean, who knows who's the number 3 receiver is going to be? Maybe it's Jermaine Burton, maybe it's Yoshi, maybe I hope not Trenton Irwin. I like Trenton Irwin as a depth receiver. I don't want to see him starting. He's just a limited depth guy, right? He's not a game breaker. But
he does well in his spots. He's in the game, but
yeah, exactly. Like when his number's called, he steps up and performs, and just a cool dude. But there's more dynamic guys out there that can,
agree.
Do more stuff. So, Bengals are having 2 joint practices this year. They're smart, and they're not doing them 2 practices like they did with the Rams a couple years ago. That didn't work so well as Aaron Donald was wielding helmets like they were hammers, and he was Thor. That was one of the craziest things I've seen in my life. I think it was Cordell Volson's helmet that was being used as a weapon against Cordell Volson, who clearly didn't have his helmet on to protect himself.
I kind of forgot about that whole incident until you just brought it up. I forgot about that incident.
I had as well until I was reading an article about when they were talking about the these upcoming practices, that they're only having them 1 days with it in mind, because you're having 2 tempers seem to flare a little bit more when you're doing back-to-back practices against a different team. Against the Bears on Thursday, August 15th, they play the 17th at Soldier Field, and then against the Colts on August 20th, and they play on the 22nd at Paycor. It'll be really interesting to see what they do. I don't know how much of it will actually be filmed for us to see. There's going to be a lot of special teams work with the new kickoff rules. Mm-hmm. So that'll be interesting to see how teams. I mean, and it's not actual game film for teams to break down. So it'll be to see how each team is going to handle that before games. I saw something that the Chiefs had thought about. Eric Reed, their safety, who's kicked before, using him as their kickoff specialist, because you have to land it between the 20 and the end zone. Because he can land it there, and then you have, since there's going to be more returns, you have an actual defensive player. I mean, a safety who's presumably a good tackler. That would be cool as hell, just to see something like that. I love seeing innovation and seeing funky concepts. So it'll be cool to see who's out there innovative. I mean, the Steelers, and we'll get into them here. Steelers signed Cordero Patterson only to be a kick returner. You haven't had kick return only players in 20, 30 years. So
is that true? They signed him literally just to be a kick returner?
They've pretty much. I mean, that's what he's listed on their roster. He's not listed as a wide receiver or running back. He's just listed as a kick returner.
Yeah. So,
excuse me. So, speaking of the Steelers, we're gonna get into the meat of the episode here. We're doing previewing the enemy, and again, next 3 weeks we're gonna do it in reverse order of standings in the AFC North, covering Steelers, Browns, and then the Ravens. Just kind of overview, 35,000 feet, how the team looks, who's in, who's out. We're not going to do any record predictions or anything like that, because that's dumb. I don't like wasting my time on dumb stuff unless it's fun, and record predictions aren't fun. Quickly, who's in? Obviously, they brought in DangeRuss, Russ Wilson on a 1-year deal. Huge splash with Patrick Queen in name, 3 years, $41 million deal. Justin Fields traded for a 6th-round pick and then declined his 5th-year option.
Yeah, that's a steal, though, for a 6th-round pick. I still think that's such a steal.
It is, and we'll get into that here in a second. Dante Johnson, cornerback, they traded got him from Carolina for Deontay Johnson pick swaps. Deshaun Elliott, safety, and then they brought in a couple wide receivers, Van Jefferson, Quez Watkins, and Cordell Patterson. Quickly about the quarterbacks, they have swapped out their quarterback room. They also brought in Kyle Allen to be their third quarterback. None of these guys are signed in 2025.
Yeah.
That's what's weird.
Yeah, it's interesting. It'll be interesting to see, definitely. I mean, it makes sense with Russell Wilson, obviously, because
Right.
it's a prove-it deal for him. If he plays great, he's going to get a fat contract. Let's be real. Like, if he plays great, he'll get another big contract. If he plays terrible, he's not. Like, it's that simple with Russell Wilson.
He's 35 years old. I mean, he turns 36 in season. He was okay last year. He was okay in 21 and was terrible in 2022. You got to go back to the COVID year in 2020 for this last good season. Again, he's and then again, like, if they really think that they have something in Justin Fields, why'd you decline his fifth-year option? Like, at least pick that up so you have somebody in that room the year after. It's weird. We'll get into that here more in a second. Real quick, this one go with who's out. Kenny Pickett traded to Philadelphia for a third and 2 7s. Whoop-de-doo. Again, Deontay Johnson to Carolina. Mason Rudolph, free agent contract with Tennessee. Derek Watt, the Fredo Corleone of the Watt family, retired. And Mitchell Trubisky cut back to Buffalo. Yeah, I mean, they completely swapped their quarterback room. And we'll get on the quarterbacks when we start with the quarterback here, like we were going into. Again, they've had a bad offense the last couple of years. I mean, they absolutely haven't gotten good quarterback play since, without looking at the stats. I mean, maybe Ben was okay in 2020.
I'd say like
the team was good in 2020, but since he was an actual top line quarterback, it's been years.
Were they like good though? Because that 2020 team just got very lucky. If you remember, like every metric said they should have been losing those games, and they started off like 11-0.
Yeah,
they were good like record wise, but like their win differential was barely anything. They were just winning so many close games, like a lot of games they shouldn't have probably pulled out. I completely forgot. I'm looking right now. I completely forgot he missed the whole 2019 season pretty much. Who played quarterback for the Steelers that year?
That was Mason Rudolph. That was when Myles Garrett ripped his helmet off and was swinging. I believe so. Wasn't that the year that?
I guess Mason Rudolph's been on the damn Steelers for so long.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like it, but
that was. I'm looking at their stats real quickly here.
I'd say Big Ben's last time he was like elite was probably like 2017, 2018 range.
Yeah, that was Big Ben started 2. Duck Hodges started 6 games, and Mason Rudolph started 8 that year.
Hodges. Oh my God. Forgot about that guy. That's an NFL season I don't remember the most of because like we were so bad it was frustrating that year to watch.
Yeah, that was I just blocked. I mean, it's one of those
I checked out after we started off like 0-6. I kind of checked out.
Yeah,
I mean, I still watched the games, but it was just like I don't know. Mentally, I forget a lot of it.
Yeah, 2018, he had a huge. Roethlisberger had a huge year. 5,100 yards, led the league in interceptions, but still threw 34 touchdowns, 320 yards a game. I mean, he had a massive statistical season. Quarterback rating was 96. So good, not great. I guess to go back to a great year, Christ, you'd have to go back to 2014 when he had 103 rating.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're start for quarterback play, and they get a probably washed up DangeRuss, and then a 4th-year Justin Fields, who they didn't pick up their 5th-year option, that's yet to prove anything. It's just weird. I don't get it.
I don't get not picking up his 5th-year option because Justin Fields played really good football the latter half of last season, like really good football. I mean, in all seriousness, if they just drafted somebody last season instead of drafting a quarterback, or if they just, you know what I mean? Like if they didn't trade with the Panthers and trade to any other team, Justin Fields would have his 5th-year option right now and be the Bears quarterback. I would put a lot of money on that. What do you think? If they did not have the first pick this year, I don't think they're drafting a quarterback at all. Because they would have had what'd they have on their own? Like the 10th pick? something like that. Like the Bears weren't horrible.
It was. I mean, they would have had a quarterback. I mean, how many quarterbacks went early? I mean, that was Bo Nix area.
But you think you're gonna take Bo Nix? Like I'd rather have Fields than like.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I don't disagree. I think it's silly that they got that they bailed on him so soon. I mean, they made major investments to their.
I think it's silly. The Steelers didn't even like. I don't know. If Russell Wilson sucks this year, you should have brought in that 5th-year option for Fields, because then you have a quarterback next year.
Right, that's exactly it. Like I mean, they can tag Fields, or they can negotiate with him, and he can just sign a new contract. But he has all the leverage if Wilson sucks and if he's solid.
Yeah, 100%.
If Wilson plays 10 games and they're 4-6, and he's out there just 1-to-1 touchdown interception ratio, and they bring in Fields, and he's at least dynamic, then they're screwed, because again, they're going to end up with 8 to 9 wins. I mean, it's overblown. They never finish below 500. It'll happen at some point, and this year's as good of a bet for any, because their offense is just ass. But
I mean, they went 500 with Duck Hodges and Mason Rudolph. So.
Right. I mean, Mike Tomlin is a damn good coach, so I'm not going to say anything about that. But they're never bad enough to be picking high to be able to get. They looked into Ben Roethlisberger.
Yeah,
I mean, Ben Roethlisberger was not a top 5 pick or anything like that. So
100%. And I think the thing is, like, my whole thing is like with Fields, like I just didn't understand the Russell Wilson signing as much. Like I would rather just have Fields and start Fields.
Yeah, exactly.
You're not going to be a Super Bowl winning team with this team. It's not 2020 Russell Wilson putting up 40 touchdowns to 8 picks or whatever. Like this isn't top 3 quarterback Russell Wilson. This isn't. Like he's not horrible, but he's in the what would you say, like 14 to 20 range quarterbacks. Like he's in the middle of the pack.
That's where his PFF had his rating. I think it was 16 this year.
Yeah, he's not bad.
Or last year.
He's still a starter in this league, but he's not a great starter or anything. And like,
I'm sorry, 18th.
Yeah,
3 spots ahead of Justin Fields.
At that rate, like I'd rather just play Justin Fields. Like I didn't even understand. Yeah. I would have just re-signed Mason Rudolph to be the backup. He's a good backup. He's solid.
Yeah.
Make Justin Fields your starter, because Justin Fields does one thing that you can't teach. He's the most athletic quarterback maybe we've ever seen at the quarterback position outside of Michael Vick. He might be more athletic than Lamar when it comes to like the way he runs the ball, breaks tackles, stuff like that. Lamar's obviously shiftier, but Justin Fields is damn fast.
Yeah. Another thing, Russell Wilson, he's taken 200. That would be crazy. 100 sacks in the last 2 seasons combined. Like, and they don't have a good offensive line. Bengals have a better offensive line. I think the Steelers are going to have the worst offensive line in the division. And again, Fields will take sacks because he's indecisiveness, and we'll get to it here in a bit. They do not have a good wide receiving core either, so it's going to be a struggle to for somebody to get open. But
100%.
It just doesn't make any sense. What we'll put this out here. What do you think the leash is on Russ?
If I had to guess, I don't think the leash is as short as people would like think sometimes, because like I do think Mike Tomlin like wants to have the best chance to get a winning record, to sneak into this wild card game. But I think as long as they're around 500, as long as they're still in the playoff race, I think he'll keep his job. As long as he's not playing horrible and he's the reason they're, you know what I mean? They're not 10-2 instead of 7-5 or 6-6. Like, as long as he's not the reason that's happening, then I think he'll keep his job.
And their schedule really isn't this. The first half of their schedule is kind of weak. They're at Atlanta, at Denver, home for the Chargers, at Colts, home for Cowboys, at Raiders, home for the Jets, and then the Giants, and then then the bye week. So I mean,
they could Cowboys 6-2. The Steelers could be 6-2. Seriously,
right? So and that's with just that would be with 2022 Russell Wilson. Obviously the schedule gets a lot harder in the second half when they play literally all of the division games. Come back from their bye week: Commanders, Ravens, Browns, Bengals, Browns, Eagles, Ravens, Chiefs. Ooh, geez, man, that is rough. So again, Commanders, and then their last 8 games: home for the Ravens, at Cleveland, at Cincinnati, home for the Browns, at Philadelphia, at Baltimore, home for Kansas City, and then home for the Bengals. Whew,
If
boy.
they want to make the playoffs, they got to start out probably 7-2 in those first
Yeah,
9.
absolutely.
And then you got to try and win like 3 of the last 8. Get to 10-7. That would be my goal, honestly.
Good luck, man.
That first
knew the front half
so
was
easy though. It makes sense.
Yeah.
But that first half of the schedule's so easy.
And see, that's why I think that's why it'd be smart to have Justin Fields. Give him a soft landing to work with the receivers, to work with the team, and you have a stable organization. Again, like the offense has been crap, and they've gone through offensive coordinators, but you have the front office, and you have a coach that's been there forever. Very stable, like ground to have to kind of work somebody in, and maybe that's what they're going to do. And they're playing in week 5, regardless of how Russ Wilson does, unless he lights shit on fire. Like, bring him in, but that just makes too much sense to start Fields early. I don't know.
Especially if this offense has been like the same thing every year. Like, it seems like where they're boring as hell. They throw the ball short.
Yeah.
They don't really move the ball. Why wouldn't you at least try something different with just a dynamic quarterback that can run?
Yeah.
And it's got a cannon. Like, at least try it.
Yeah.
He's got all the physical tools in the world. He's just got to put it together.
Exactly.
But the talent is obviously there. Like, there's a reason this guy was super hyped up coming into the NFL and everything.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
I think he was one of the highest graded recruits ever coming out of high school. He was a huge recruit.
Yeah, going to Georgia. So
yeah,
I wish he would have stayed there, just because I hate that school up 71, but that's neither here nor there. We'll get into the skill position real quickly here. Running backs, solid combo with Jalen Warren, Najee Harris. Would you agree?
Yeah, 100%.
Not the best, but I mean, they're pretty solid. Like, good complementary.
This is the best part of their offense for sure. Their running backs are really solid. It's better in our running back room.
Yeah, or at least more surety there. There's more surety. Najee Harris is, I mean, he's huge. He's almost Derrick Henry size, 6'1", 240. Not very elusive, but he gets the tough yards and will run through arm tackles. And he's faster than expected for a guy that size. And Jalen Warren, I like him. I really think he should be featured more. He's small and he's short. We'll put it that way. He's not small, 5'8", but he's thick as hell. He's 215. He's going to run through tackles. A lot better receiver than Najee Harris. Neither of them are good. In fact, Warren's a terrible pass blocker, so that kind of necessitates having a third running back or some kind of fullback on obvious passing downs. But between the two of them, like, you're going to get probably 1,500 yards. Between 4.5 yards a carry. You can do a hell of a lot worse than what they have there.
Yeah, and Warren had a hell of a year last year, and I think they had close to the same yards, and he had way less carries.
Yeah, he's a lot more efficient. That's for sure.
Warren last year, 149 carries, 784 yards, 5.3 yards per carry. I mean, and both these guys are still relatively young too, so like, it's a nice backfield for sure.
Yeah. So, on the wide receiver group, this is probably the weakest spot in the entire team. Would you agree?
Yeah.
Deontay Johnson is now in Carolina. George Pickens had 1,100 yards. Nobody returning had more than 370 yards receiving for the team. That's Jalen Warren. George Pickens is mercurial, has mental lapses, but he can make catches few others can. He's got that crazy, kind of a cross between AJ Green, Chad Johnson body control to be able to make those like contorting tough catches. He's got the good size.
This guy's a top 5 talent in the NFL. Yeah. Legitimately. He's the best receiver the Steelers have had in a long time.
Yeah.
It's Antonio Brown. Seriously. Yeah. It's Antonio Brown. But yeah, like the rest of this core, like Van Jefferson is a player that I actually liked like his first couple of years. He seemed like he was going to develop into a solid receiver on the Rams. It never really happened. He was a lot of these guys are really, really, really good, like depth receivers that have made big plays, like Quez Watkins, Van Jefferson, been on good teams, made big plays, but as like the number 4 receiver, you know what I'm saying, Joe? Like they've all been proven players on good teams, but like not at big time, not with big time pressure on them.
Right. They're useful, but again, and just going off of PFF's scores, which take them how you want them, but I mean I like that they're at least they have a objectivity to them. George Pickens was the 37th out of 128 rated receivers, which fine, like that's number one, number two ish. Quez Watkins was 93rd out of 128. Calvin Austin III was 102nd out of 128, and Van Jefferson was 125th out of 128. And that's their wide receiver room. Like they've brought in, and they've Denzel Mims, who maybe they can try to revive his career. Marquez Cal. I mean, just a lot of like, hey, these are useful guys, but this is 2024. This isn't 1976 where you run the ball 40 times a game and then you play action and throw it to somebody. You need good wide receivers. I mean, Bengals have had 3 great wide receivers and they can't even get over the hump sometimes. So I mean, it's especially when you don't have a legitimate lights out stud at quarterback, you need guys that can win one-on-one matchups, and George Pickens isn't going to get one-on-one matchups. No. Who's leaving that guy alone on an island when you have those guys on the other side of the field?
We saw in that pretty much the winner of that game had a really good chance of making the playoffs this year between us and the Steelers. George Pickens absolutely killed us. We had no answer for that guy. No. We saw how damn good he is. But he's not going to have one-on-one coverage at all. Like, why wouldn't you double him with the other receiver until these guys prove themselves? If they prove themselves, sure. But as of right now, going into week 1, who the hell is not doubling George Pickens?
Exactly. I mean, triple him shit. I mean, you put 2 corners and shade the safety on there over to that side and, force the beat him elsewhere. And that's good luck on that. So they're going to need somebody to step up. And I don't see someone who can. It's one thing if like they have a rookie
threats too.
Yeah.
Like none of them, like Pickens is a great receiver, but he hasn't really shown he can run the full route tree yet early in his career. He's more of a just like
vertical route tree.
But he's amazing at it. But he hasn't shown, he hasn't shown to be able to run the underneath routes and stuff and be effective that way yet. The only guy that's not like a big deep threat is Van Jefferson, because Quez Watkins for the Eagles was a deep threat.
Yep.
And then Calvin Austin last year for the freaking Steelers was a deep threat. So Tyler Boyd would have been a perfect signing for them. So I don't know why they didn't do that.
Yeah, that's
overpay him for 1 year. Just overpay him for 1 season. Who cares?
I mean, and that's the thing. Like, can you really overpay a guy for a 1 year deal when you bring, you have the whole hometown, bringing the hometown guy back? I mean, he's from Pittsburgh. He went to Pitt. Like, that matches perfectly. I'm glad they didn't get him because I don't want to have to root against him. If you draft Jaylen Warren for your fantasy football team, he's going to rack up a shitload of receptions for you because he's their underneath guy. Yeah. Him and Pat Freiermuth. Like,
Najee will rack up a shit ton of receptions this year, too.
Probably, yeah. But Warren's a better bet to get more yards. But
and Wilson already doesn't take a ton of risks. Like, he likes to dump it off to the running back.
They're going to have to figure. I mean, offensive coaches are going to have to earn their money and figure out a game plan that's going to work to be explosive. I don't see the team being explosive.
Yeah, I don't either.
Tight ends, Pat Freiermuth, Darnell Washington headline the group. Solid, unspectacular. I mean, Freiermuth seems to... He plays well against the Bengals, but then you look at his numbers as a whole, and they're pretty unimpressive. Again, I don't know if that's just more of a prospect of their offense than anything else, but I don't know. I mean, I liked Darnell Washington last year coming into the draft. The guy's gigantic. He in college blocked like he was an offensive lineman. Numbers actually look pretty weak as a rookie. But I think Washington's kind of has the ability to be an every down type of tight end. I can see him kind of wrestling that role away because he's got more ability, but none of those guys are, game changers. They're not Mark Andrews or anything like that.
Yeah, no, Freiermuth, he's a solid player, but he's hovering around that 10 to 12 range, probably in tight ends in the league. Like, he's a little above average. He's nothing crazy.
Yeah, I mean, he's a more of a traditional, 3-down tight end. He's not the receiver like Mike Gesicki, who's just a large slot receiver type guy. So,
yeah, he had a down year last year for sure compared to his 2022 stats. 2022, he was a pretty, pretty productive tight end. Last year, not so much.
Well,
Seems like
when
he
you
does
have
always kill us too, though.
Yeah.
It always seems like he kills us.
Tight ends, just outside of 22 and 20 or 21 and 22, when they had Trey Flowers or whatever, tight ends just absolutely have eaten the Bengals alive for decades. Yeah. I have nightmares of Todd Heap and Heath Miller and those guys from the 2000s.
Yeah, I remember Heath Miller. He was a Bengals killer.
Yeah. On their offensive line, it's probably the worst in the division heading to 2024. Likely starting five is at tackles, Broderick Jones and Troy Fautanu. Not sure where those guys are going to start. Jones started a lot on the right side as a rookie. They think he's penciled in on the left side, and Fautanu is going to start on the right side. Jones flashed, but was inconsistent on the right side. Coming from Georgia, I mean, a big time player. You expect he's has the ability. Kind of more or less replaced in the starting lineup by Marius Mims last year, but Fautanu is the one that we talked about. We liked him, but it was a question whether he's a guard or a tackle. And damn well, no matter where he is, Myles Garrett's going to line up against him at some point because Myles Garrett likes to pick and choose who he goes against, and he'll the guy with that freakish athletic ability. Yeah, exactly. You get questions of a guard. I'll make you wish you were an offensive guard because your arms aren't long enough for my freakishly long limbs. So, left guard is Isaac Seumalo, best returning offensive lineman. His solid first year with Pittsburgh, coming over from Philadelphia. Not really much to say about him. I mean, he's fine, but we're not talking about the Steelers offensive line from the 70s. Nate Herbig's their center, penciled in as the starter, hasn't played a snap at the position since 2021. I don't know if that's what you want to go with, again, with a quarterback that holds on to the ball a lot with Russell Wilson. James Daniels, he's a solid player, but he had a bad season last year. He got extended and had his worst season, at least graded per PFF, at right guard. So, good luck at quarterback. And they'll be fine running the ball, but that's not a position when you don't have a good wide receiving crew and you don't have a good offensive line. That's
not a good recipe for success. Yeah, Russell Wilson's kind of getting set up for failure. Talking about this, not gonna lie.
Yeah,
if he doesn't perform well, I still wouldn't say it's all his fault on this roster and everything. It's gonna be tough. If he can put up the same numbers he did last year in Denver, I would say that's a hell of a season. With the supporting crew around him. Yeah.
And again, you look at how their season starts out with. I mean, 9-8 season looks pretty plausible with that. I mean, they'll probably go 5-3 in the first half and then go 4-4 in the second half miraculously by pulling wins out of their ass against teams that they shouldn't. But
game somehow.
What's that?
I said they'll be in the wild card game as the 7. Just watch.
And that's fine with me.
Every damn year.
And again, that means they're going to be picking around pick 20, and they're going to be getting. You're not going to be getting that impact day one, huge player that they need unless someone falls.
Unless you just get lucky.
Yeah. So I'm good. I mean, that's Andy Dalton quarterback hell. When your team is good enough to be decent, but not good enough to win it
over the hump. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So that's that's kind of where they've been for a long time. So sucks to be them. Ha 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 ha. On the defense, this is where they're going to win games. They still have a very, I don't want to say loaded, but a very strong defense. Defensive line, Cam Hayward, age 35 is not the player he once was, but he's still a force, right?
Yeah, 100%. Still a really good player, even at this age.
Yeah, and again, he will still have games where he absolutely just wrecks things up the middle. Larry Ogunjobi, as we very well know, good interior pass rush. When kept on a pitch count, he's a very useful player. Player that I like a lot, came out of Wisconsin last year, so he's going into year 2. Keanu Benton, second-year player. He flashed a lot. He's probably in line for a bigger role with Hayward and Ogunjobi, both older and need more rest. I mean, obviously there's more than just those 3. I'm not going to go into their entire depth chart clearly, but it's a pretty solid defensive line. They run a 3-4, so that's not even getting into the edge guys yet. But yeah, I mean, they are well coached. They're not going to beat themselves. These aren't guys that are, like Pittsburgh defenses have been great for 50 years.
Yeah.
Let's be honest.
They've never had a bad defense since I've been alive.
Yeah. 80s were fun because they weren't very good, but that was a long time ago since the 80s. I wish it wasn't that long ago, but yeah, it's been a long time since the 80s. Edge, they probably have the top 3 edge, pass rushing duo. TJ Watt, I don't know what needs to be said about him. Short list of best.
I was going to say, he's at least like the best at actually sacking the quarterback. Like Parsons and Garrett might be a little more versatile.
Yeah.
But actually getting to the quarterback, I don't think there's anybody better.
Yeah. And against the Bengals, he always seems to, it kills him, and then he always seems to knock passes in the air. He intercepted, get an interception here and there. Just a very smart player, one of those that immediately knows just the great instincts when he's not winning his reps. Get your hands up in the passing lane.
Is he better than his brother?
No, I don't think so.
He might end up passing him because, just on all-time rankings and stuff, because his longevity looks like it'll be better because he's about to be 30 and JJ was already slowing down at this point.
Yeah. I don't think, short of Aaron Donald, I don't think there's been a defensive lineman, and JJ was more of a defensive lineman than a linebacker, edge, hybrid, whatever the hell you want to call.
Yeah.
3-4 guys. So he was in there more in on the run, on the run game. Outside of Aaron Donald, I don't think there's been a defensive lineman in the past 20 years that has been as dominant as JJ Watt. Full absolute game wrecker.
If it wasn't for injuries, he might be regarded as the best defensive player ever, for sure. If there wasn't 4 or 5 seasons where he only played 5 games.
Yeah. And he's whispered that he's willing to come out of retirement to play for Pittsburgh and Houston. So he could get if it gets late in the season and there are injuries, he could be persuaded to come back and play for Pittsburgh to play with the little brother. So. On the other side of TJ Watt is Alex Highsmith. Sack numbers are cut in half 20 last year over the year before, but that's also because TJ Watt missed a lot of games in 22, but still 7 sacks coming off the other side. He's a legitimate force. He's only 27, so he's not going away anytime soon.
Mm-hmm. Nah, Highsmith's a dog out there too. Like you said, this edge is pretty scary. When you look at it.
Yeah. Linebackers, again, we mentioned they signed Patrick Queen away from Ravens. He's a good all-around player. He's good in coverage. I think his name is a lot bigger than his impact.
Yeah, because when you think of I feel like if you think of Patrick Queen, you're like, oh, all-pro type player. If you just hear the name. And like you said, name is probably bigger in impact. He's very fast. He's a very athletic linebacker. But he's more of a coverage linebacker. He's not gonna do a ton. He's 24. Damn. He's still young as hell.
Yeah, he's a kid
baby
still.
When he got drafted. He was 20 then when he first started in the league.
Yeah.
But still tons of upside. He could definitely even get way better too, though.
Yeah. If he was as good as his reputation, the Ravens wouldn't have signed and then extended Roquan Smith over top of him, right? That was, one thing, trade for him, but you've got both of those guys coming up and you pay for Roquan Smith. So, on the other side, the other middle linebacker is kind of switched between Cole Holcomb and Elandon Roberts. Those guys are both solid in what they do. They're Cole Holcomb is better versus the run than in coverage. Elandon Roberts better in passing downs. But if I didn't say their names, would you know who those guys were?
No.
They always have linebackers that
their linebackers, I feel like you never know.
You don't know these names, but one of them's going to have a huge game against the Bengals. It doesn't matter who it is. This could be someone that they just signed off the street from Our Lady of Our Lady of the Poor, and it comes out and
I feel
takes a pass off or gets a sack against the Bengals or a forced fumble or something.
The Steelers always have like high profile names on the D line and then
Yeah.
their secondary. And then I feel like they save money on their linebackers a lot of the times.
Yeah, like they've got great edge, the edge guys, but yeah, the middle linebackers are.
And their secondary usually is like players, too. A lot of big name players usually in the secondary.
Yeah, exactly. Well, talking linebackers / secondary, Joey Porter Jr., who his dad was probably the last big name, like actual non-pass rushing linebacker the Steelers had, probably, right?
Yeah.
How long ago did his dad play? It's crazy. These guys that I remember watching as an adult. Their kids are in the league. It's like that. God damn, this sucks. That moment.
I feel like Joey Porter played. He was like about to end his career when I started watching football. So 99 to 2011.
Okay,
yeah, I remember him on the Dolphins.
He was a coach on the 15 team. That was he was in the middle of the meltdown at Paul Brown. That was fuck those guys. Anyway, Joey Porter Jr. up and down rookie season fell off a lot as the season went along. You hear a lot of people complaining about DJ Turner on the Bengals as a second round pick. Porter fell off big time as a first rounder, but most likely just hitting the rookie wall. He has all the traits to be a number one cornerback. I think they're fine having him as their number one, a guy that they feel is going to grow into a shutdown corner, right?
Yeah, agreed.
On the other side, Dante Jackson, the guy they got from Carolina, traded for Deontay Johnson. Great speed, shorter stature. He's 5'10", I believe. Poor tackler, but good in coverage. So definitely a guy you'd love to see lined up against Jamar Chase, because guy's poor tackler, and we know how good Chase is with the ball in his hands after the catch. Bring it on. Yeah, exactly. Slot receiver is Josiah Scott, likely slot corner. Free agent from Philly. He's a Wish.com version of Mike Hilton.
Wish.com.
Similar size, 5'9", 185. Just one of the guys is kind of a dog, puts his nose in, a really good tackler. Not great in man-to-man, but again, neither is Mike Hilton. Knows where to be. But if they have to play man-to-man, they're going to get bodied by bigger receivers or not fast enough, quick enough to keep up with the quicker guys. But solid, should be a solid player.
Yeah.
On the very back line, safety, Minkah Fitzpatrick. I can't believe he's only 27 years old. It seems like he's been around forever.
It seems like he's been a Steeler for 5-6 years. How long has he been a Steeler for? Because he was an elite player already on the Dolphins.
That was one of those that made absolutely no sense why the Dolphins traded him away.
29. This is his
sixth season?
Sixth year on the Steelers.
Okay. Jesus.
It was only his second year when he joined the Steelers. Damn.
Yeah, that's why it made absolutely no sense. That was the year that the
Dolphins
were supposedly tanking.
Yeah, but still, why do you trade your 22-year-old safety? That makes no sense to me.
Yeah, that was the tank for Tua year, which worked because they got Tua, but Bengals won because they got Burrow, so yay.
Yeah, they did tank for Tua, failed the tank.
Yeah.
Didn't get the best guy, but they still got Tua.
Yeah, exactly. So, other safety spots probably going to be Deshaun Elliott, free agent from Miami. Fourth team in 4 years. It's weird. You look at his numbers, and again, grades only tell part of the story. Plays a fair amount of snaps. He's been very good against the run. He's average in coverage for safety. And what's missing? Why is this guy going from team to team? I mean, he looks like a solid player. I've never really watched him. He's never been, never been on a Bengal or never been someone that I follow too much, but
yeah, his numbers definitely look good. So that is a question, why is he keep bouncing from team to team and everything like that?
Yeah, I mean, for his sake, it'd be nice to him to have a good year and get a multi-year contract, but let's have it next year when he signs with his fifth team, because we don't want him playing well.
Exactly.
Specialist, Chris Boswell. He's short list of best non-Justin Tucker kickers for the past decade. The guy has missed, I think.
He's had so many game winners versus us, it feels like.
I think he's missed one kick in his career. It was until a couple years ago he didn't miss a kick, extra point, field goal, or anything. Never missed a kick against the Bengals.
That is absurd. And he made multiple 50-plus yarders, I'm sure, too, versus us.
Infuriating.
Yeah, he did not miss versus us.
Right, someone, even a good kicker. I mean, even Justin Tucker came back to earth, the past couple of years. He looks more like a normal kicker, and like someone's going to push one or, bad snap or something, nope, just nails every fucking kick.
Yeah, like this guy, he doesn't have the leg that some of the top tier kickers have. However, he does have the efficiency. He hardly misses.
Yeah, under 50, under 50, he's automatic.
Yeah, he is automatic under 50.
Yeah. Punter, they brought in Cameron Johnston from Houston. He's a bad punter, and he's replacing bad punters. They had Presley Harvin, and I forget they had a couple guys punting last year. Again, shitty punter replacing a shitty punter. We know a lot about that here in Cincinnati. Hopefully, we can get that figured out. I cannot remember the name of the guy, the Bengals, the undrafted free agent they brought in to push Robbins. Somebody just be average. Be what Kevin Huber was for a decade. Like Kevin Huber was never an All-Pro or Pro Bowl punter for what that's worth.
He was okay. He was solid.
He was fine. Hang time was fine. Net yardage was fine. Length was fine. It wasn't kicking low line drives or super high punt. Brad Robbins is the hang time guy, and that's great. You're only kicking them 35 yards.
The hang time was 35-yard punts.
Right. Awesome. Great. Just boot the thing 70 damn yards and let them return it 20 yards. I don't care.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm not going into coaches coming and going and all that stuff because it's the players on the field that really are going to win or lose that team. Final thoughts about the Steelers. I mean, they're the fourth best team in the division, right? On paper, clearly.
On paper,
clearly.
Yeah. But I wouldn't be shocked if they end up like 9-8. Honestly, I really will be shocked. Or 10-7.
Their variability, like you look at their 20th percent to 80th percentile, and like worst case scenario, they're 7-10. Best case scenario, they're 10-7, right?
Yeah, they're not going to be. Yeah. They're not going to be really bad, and they're not going to be really good. They're going to be somewhere in the middle of the pack, fighting for a playoff spot towards the end of the year. In my opinion,
every other team, I mean, injury to a quarterback or whatever, Bengals could go 5-12, Ravens could go 5-12, Browns could go 5-12. They could go 12-5 or 15-2. Like you can see all those scenarios.
3-14 if something.
Right, exactly. But like the Steelers, it's like just this razor thin, variability. Like you know where they're going to be.
They have the highest floor.
Yeah, probably the highest floor in the entire league, just because coaching staff.
Injuries, yeah, they'll win games.
That's annoying too. And again, that's. If you were a fan, would you like at this point in the Steelers? Like again, they've got a storied history. They have 6 rings. Like this kind of has to be like
a while though,
right?
Like when was the last time they went on a deep run in the playoffs?
They were in the AFC Championship game. Crap, I can't remember.
Probably like 7-8 years ago now, right? I want to say.
I think so. See, now I gotta. See, you ask these questions when I don't realize I'm trying to look them up, and it's just riveting audio and video.
Literally.
It's not quite as long as the Browns, but I mean, it's
been a minute for them.
Yeah, it's. But I mean, again, looking at the history of that team, they're very proud fans. I mean, seem to forget how awful they were for the first 30 years they existed, but they're going to be in playoff contention every year, but they're not going to win anything. So this would kind of suck, right? Like it'd be frustrating. Well, we'll say frustrating, not suck, but
yeah, because I mean you're always relevant, so that's nice, and you always have a chance to win it all. But it's just like you'd want a team with a higher ceiling for sure.
Yeah. Next week again we're going reverse order, so we're going to cover the Cleveland Browns going over, but any final thoughts before we get out of here for this week?
Not really. Good episode. Good talk about the Steelers. I think they'll be mediocre.
Yeah, that's pretty much where we are. Celtics up game 1. What do you 1-0. What do you have for I got the Celtics winning in 5. Good bet, bad bet. You think Mavs are going to make it longer? You think Mavs going to pull it out?
I think Celtics in 5 isn't a bad bet at all. I think Celtics in 6. I think there'll be at least one game where Luka just drops like 50 and they get a win. And then I think there'll be another game where the Celtics just kind of lay an egg. I think game 2 might be laying an egg from the Celtics. I wouldn't
maybe.
They've had a history of laying an egg in game 2s.
Although Kyrie Irving made some comments talking about how he thought the boos were going to be louder in Game 1. They're going to be pretty loud in Game 2, I would imagine.
I will say though, the Celtics came with a great game plan and stuff. Don't count on Kyrie to miss wide open threes again. I don't see that happening again. Same with Luka. They were missing wide open shots in that game. Yeah. I don't expect that to happen again. So I think the Mavericks will make adjustments. I think the Celtics game plan to not double team was very helpful though, because it took away Luka's passing ability and pretty just much said, Luka, you have to score every possession. Yeah. And he wasn't efficient, so then got blown out. I did think when he hit that 3 to cut it to 8 though, I was like, oh shit.
It's on.
Yeah, I was like, they're about to win this game, watch. But then the Celtics went on like a 13-0 run or whatever, closed it out.
I just think they have too many. I think the Celtics have too many. I don't say dogs, but like just
too many options.
Yeah, so exactly.
Everybody's so versatile.
Yeah.
I mean, it's time the Celtics win a ring. This team's like they haven't they were.
That's a championship-starved franchise there in Boston.
Yeah, and Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown are a bit of a duo to not have a ring yet. Like it's time for them to get one.
Right. But on the other hand, it's the city of Boston that have too many championship teams in the past 20 years too.
They have 12 titles in the last 20 years.
The city between Bruins won 1, 2.
One. Yeah. Celtics got 1. Or it's the last 23 years.
Since 2001. Yeah.
So it's 6 from the Patriots and then 4
from the Red Sox. Yeah.
And then 1-1.
That's not cool.
2-1.
We have
0.
We have 1 in 48 years here in Cincinnati. So
yeah, that's what my dad always talks about because his first introduction to sports as a kid is the Big Red Machine.
Okay.
So he's blessed, his first, when he's a kid, he's 9, 10 years old. They're winning World Series and stuff. And I've never seen a playoff series win by the Reds.
I turned 10 the summer the Reds won the World Series in 1990. So they're due. Elsewhere around the Riverfront Reds show, Nate is back. He had Tim on with him. Fun, entertaining show. Actually had a nice winning streak to talk about, so always good viewer mail questions. NBA Friday, every Friday AM. How was NBA Friday this week? I haven't got a chance to catch up with you guys yet.
We didn't record a video this week. We couldn't.
That's right.
We couldn't line up times.
Maybe I'll cut that. Late Night Reds every Sunday with Tim Danio, Ben Brown. Red Roundtable. Seth had former Reds broadcaster, MLB Hall of Famer Marty Brennaman. So that was a really cool one as well. So again, cool. July 6th, noon to 2 p.m. I know where I'm going to be. Boom. Smoke Justice. Riverfront Live. Be there. Have some pops with us. Have some barbecue with us. Talk some Reds. We'll talk a little bit Bengals as well. Afterwards, walk across the suspension bridge to go watch the Reds and Tigers play. So, outside of that, Parker, have a wonderful week, my friend.
Thank you. You too.
We are out of here, y'all. Everyone take care.
See you guys.